Okay, we are back in the HOKA outpost with HOKA athlete/employee, UTMB champion, Vincent Bouillard. Vincent, how are you ahead of your first Western States?
Good. I'm excited.
Yeah?
Yeah. Getting a little, not impatient, just happy, excited.
Yeah. I'm excited to talk about the day, and also joining us here, the key contributor to your win at UTMB and also this weekend, your lovely wife, Kamilah Journet. Kamilah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so fun to do this. Obviously, we've been doing a lot of one-on-one athlete interviews, and now we get to both do that and tell Vincent's story, but also hear about how you're going to be, sort of in part of this big journey from Olympic Valley to Auburn on Saturday. Maybe starting with you, Kamilah. I was just saying to you, still burned in my memory from UTMB last year was when your husband, Vincent, crossed the finish line and you had your hands over your mouth, just shaking your head, just in total disbelief. If you could just bring us into that moment as best you can.
Yeah, I mean, wow. Like, I still kind of get goosebumps thinking about that. Last year was a really big year for us. We moved from the U.S. to France. First time living abroad for me. We had just moved into an apartment 2 weeks before UTMB. We dealt with some grief of some family members that we lost, and it was just 2024 was one of those years where we said going into it, like, if everything doesn't line up, we know why.
Yeah.
Like, there were so many reasons why it could have been just a race, but we approached it the same way we've approached every other race that Vincent has done. It didn't feel like a huge, here we go, UTMB. It just felt like us. It felt like me crewing Vincent the same way I had so many other times, and just to have that result at the end of it was amazing.
I would love to have you both comment on how you navigated the immediate aftermath together, because I'm sure it was complicated. The huge, career-defining moment of winning UTMB, and then all the decisions that came afterwards about how this was going to impact Vincent's career as potentially becoming a professional athlete, how that would then impact his career, how that would impact you guys as a family unit. Maybe, Kamilah, you could get us started on this. I'd love to just hear how you guys navigated that moment together.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely changed our plans. I think we had planned to go to the spa the next day after the race and like recoup with our friends and, have a family dinner. And all of a sudden we couldn't walk through the streets of Chamonix anymore. It was
you got to come into the Freetrail studio to do an interview. Yeah.
It was just a whirlwind weekend. But I think at the end of it for us, what's been so special is Vincent is the exact same person that he was before UTMB. Never had any doubt. Anyone that knows us never thought that was going to shift. So it really allowed us the space to make a lot of those decisions of like what feels right for us in this moment. How much change is too much change after already a year with a lot of change. And we've just really taken the time to get feedback from the trail community, outside of the trail community, our family, all of that to decide what feels best for us.
Vincent, I'd love to hear you comment on this too.
Yeah, I think it definitely was something that we weren't prepping for. Like, we prepped to race and execute the plan as best as possible, but everything after the finish line was not part of the preparation. So, but yeah, I think we were grateful to have a lot of great support in our community, our family, our friends that we could get a lot of precious advice from, and honestly take our time to make a lot of those decisions. It took much longer maybe than we thought it would take, because it's some important decision that we wanted to ensure we weren't taking lightly and thinking through. And I think it's also, for me, potentially would change things on my professional career as an engineer. I've worked with HOKA now for almost a decade, and I think ahead of UTMB I was already questioning, like, well, not mandatorily how much longer do I want to do this, but like what is my career path?
Yeah.
Like, what are some goals that I want to put out there for me to keep going? What are some other things I would be interested in? And I think, well, this all of a sudden opened a whole new path potentially of like, well, okay, now there's a lot more choices ahead of us. So it's all good. Like, honestly, it's a lot of privilege to have those choices. So.
Yeah.
it was not the easiest time because it was a lot of like sudden choices to have to face, but zero regret on the decisions that we've made. And I think, as Kamilah was saying, they were in order to have the most stability and continuity and happiness in keeping the momentum.
So how did things settle in terms of your career and the division between the athlete and the engineer? To the extent you can reveal, it seems to me, at least just your presence here at Western States makes me feel like you have carved out a little bit more room for Vincent the athlete.
Yeah. So the balance that we landed on with HOKA and Deckers, which is the parent company that I'm employed by, is I transitioned to a part-time role in my engineering role with Deckers. So that started in January 1st, and that aligned with the start of my athlete contract. So that was the first time that I signed a sponsored contract. I have a nutrition sponsor, Bao, that's a French company also based in Annecy. But yeah, the idea was definitely to carve out more time, not mandatory to train more, like my training volume hasn't increased that much at all, but just to put more quality into everything I would do. So not having to rush through the training, not having to carve out sleep, not having to, just being able to do maybe things with a little bit more quality time everywhere around, and just keeping time to, frankly, like try and do nothing. Like just have like slow time still and not rush through everything.
It's funny, we did an interview with Killian yesterday, and he made the comment that the most important thing is systemic health, and he just talked about how even just the slightest bit of consistent stress over time has a huge impact on the athletic career and being able to focus on his athletic goals, but also downstream to family and things like that. And Kamilah, I would love to have you share a little bit too, because a lot of the trail running world discovered who Vincent was at UTMB. And we're still kind of getting to know who Vincent is. I'd love to have you share a little bit about what makes Vincent a special athlete, and maybe you could describe some of the character qualities and his values that sort of make that the case too.
Yeah, I mean, wow, it's kind of hard to describe your partner in like a concise interview format, but I would say that I kind of have a story that comes to mind for how I really realized that Vincent was a special athlete. Yeah. So during the pandemic, I think we were very fortunate and privileged to be in Southern California. Restrictions weren't nearly as strict, and so thus we spent a lot of time on the bike. We spent a lot of time outside. And Vincent kind of got this itch to do a project biking from the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco all the way home to Ventura.
Yeah.
One stretch. That was my first real experience crewing Vincent. We drove up, we made it a little trip. He starts his race right at sunset, and I followed him all along the one, having various snacks, making sure he was feeling okay, etc. He gets back to the house. Here we go. We're going to upload the longest ride he's ever done, and his bike computer crashed. And for me, that would, like, how do you do your longest ride ever? Yeah. You've been on the saddle for 28 hours, and there's nothing.
There's no record.
There's no record of it, except for the fact that we know he did it.
Wow.
And he wasn't really bothered by it.
Yeah.
And for me, that just kind of speaks to the fact that he does this because he loves it. It's a part of who he is. It's his form of therapy. It's his time alone. He does a lot of thinking, but it's not necessarily from this like competitive, let me prove myself to anyone other than myself. And we know that he did that and that it was special and we shared that memory. But for me, I think that's something really unique in a professional athletic setting, to just be able to kind of have that sense of self to say, I'm doing this for me, for us, for the memories, and whatever result that leads to is just a cherry on top.
It's
perhaps.
like, I think they call that intrinsic motivation. It actually is a really interesting thing to talk about too, because I think after UTMB and with the way life has maybe changed a little bit, it could be easier to lose touch with that intrinsic motivation. And maybe this is a good time to talk about Chainti a little bit, because as you come into Chainti, of course, the big storyline is like, it's Jim, it's Killian, it's Vincent. But, you know, for the vast majority of the trail running world, they knew you from one race. And it could have been maybe easy to go into that intimidated, overwhelmed by two of the greatest our sport has ever seen. After UTMB, did you have a hard time staying in touch with the intrinsic motivation, or did you feel more a sense of pressure to participate in sport for reasons beyond just your love of the practice?
Honestly, I don't think I got that in regards to my practice of the sport. I think what I struggled with and frankly still struggle with is just a more public communication piece, because that's completely new. Like, yes, of course, the context around the race is different now. I have to do like a lot more obligations and things which are not a problem. It's just that's a new exercise that I really have to lean into. The race itself, whether it's the training on a daily basis or even the race, once the gun starts, it's like, yeah, sure, maybe there's more people that will cheer my name and maybe I have a different color jersey on that I'm sponsored, but like fundamentally the effort is not that different.
Yeah.
So I think it's easier for me during the effort. What's something that I'm working more on, and after UTMB was more of a challenge, is more the fact that like now I have like quote unquote an audience and people care to hear what I have to say.
Sure.
That is something that is like, whoa, okay, I wasn't expecting that. And this is something new. Yeah.
So then coming back to Chainti though, I mean, from my perspective, if I were in your shoes, where my head would be is like, I have so much pressure to live up to what I just did at UTMB, especially going against two of the greatest our sport has ever produced. Turned out you and Killian effectively had a sprint finish. So I'd love to have you talk about whether you were wrestling with any internal self-doubt there, and whether like Chainti was another data point that you are on the path that you should be on and that you do deserve to be at the front of these races.
I think what I did struggle a little bit with is how much attention there was to the three of us, and the fact that like, come on, my resume compared to Jim's or Killian's is like, there's nothing there.
Right.
So I don't really think it was fair to compare me. Like even like the photo at the start, I'm like, that's not, I should be taking the photo. Like, I'm a fan of those two guys. So I think that was a little bit, weird, and how much attention it capitalized compared to potentially other athletes. Like what happened for me at UTMB can happen any day in our sport, in any given race, almost. That's like, not almost, literally any given race. Like maybe on Saturday we'll have someone have a stellar day and like crush the entire field, and like he hasn't been on any interview this week. So I think it was just a little bit of something to be at peace with. But I think there was one thing that through my work and through some of our friends, I've been around professional athletes, especially in trail running, for long enough that I've kind of seen the drills, and it's not a completely new world for me to be immersed into. But then what you're asking actually reminds me of a conversation I had with Baptiste Chassagne, who finished second at UTMB.
Yeah.
And like we were both super happy with our races, and just I think we even had that conversation like at the podium the next day in Chamonix, kind of like just going about like, hey, now everything's just for fun.
Yeah.
Like we had like kind of the dream race, and like now we can just peace out. Like there's no pressure. Like what else are you gonna do? And, you know, it's like for me it's almost like, of course I want to keep challenging myself and develop my competitive aspect, but at the same time it's like, well, I guess that's done.
Yeah.
So it also enables to lower the pressures. Like I'm not here to prove anything to anyone. I think I'm here to challenge myself at first and have fun with it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start talking about Western States. But before we do, you guys are also sort of celebrating the expansion of your family. So I'd love to have you maybe share a little bit about that with the audience. As I understand it, you haven't really spoken about it publicly, but it's a special thing, and I'm sure it's impacted the way you guys have approached this year, including your approach to the race, Kamilah.
Yeah, I mean, we're expecting our first little person.
Big round of applause, everybody!
So honestly, as much as this is a trip for Western, it's also a trip to see friends and family. I grew up in California. I spent every summer in Sacramento at my grandma's.
Yeah.
I have a ton of family here. So we try to not fly across the world as much as we can, but honestly, the timing couldn't have been better for us to share this news with all of our loved ones. So
Amazing. Vincent, are you ready to become a dad?
Oh, no. I think I've come to the conclusion that we're never fully ready. We just embrace it.
Yeah.
So very excited, and also perhaps even more grateful that we have a stellar crew this weekend to not just take care of me, but take care of her.
Beautiful.
During a super hard job of accruing ultra, and as you know, it's not the easiest conditions to follow around and drive around in a hot day. So we're super happy, super excited, and timing works out because the first few months aren't the easiest. So now she feels a little better and can be here.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
Speaking about Western States now, Vincent, you've been here in the area for, it seems like, at least a few weeks, getting to know the course a little bit. If you could share a little bit about your training, about your impressions of the race, and maybe how your skill set maps to it, because it really is a different style of race than UTMB, for example. Yeah,
it's very different. I think that's part of the excitement for me to set that goal of first qualifying to Western State and then training for it. I arrived here on June 9th, so almost 3 weeks ahead of the race weekend. It's almost like the end, really, of like beginning of taper, but the opportunity to scope out a big part of the course, get adjusted to the heat, because even though it's been hot in Europe, the humidity level is much higher, and so here it's a different feeling. Like we don't have canyons where you feel like heat trap and radiation from the walls and rocks. So yeah, it's been nice to kind of like finalize the training block here. And also we joke that like I went into a little bit of a like caveman mode of like being a hermit for a little bit, which I think I kind of needed to just mentally recharge and be ready to have more exposure and social time during the race week.
Wow.
But the training has been, I want to say, kind of good, boring, good. Like just continuity. Like one of the running joke that we have with Jim is that all my trainings in Annecy are in the same mountain that a lot of local or French runners kind of criticize because they say it's not a real mountain. It's not like it. Yeah, there's like mostly forest coverage, all of this. So that's where you get the best views. But
sure.
I love it. Like I grew up in Annecy, and so it's also very special for me to run there on those trails. And yeah, I did, I think 100% of my training block on those trails and like from the door of our apartment. So yeah, it's been fun. This is my first time training for this race. And it's only my third 100 mile. Yeah. So I don't have all the reference. I'm like, I feel great. Like I know I can do this.
Sure.
Like, there's still a lot of unknown, and that's exciting. Yeah.
Kamilah, share a little bit about how you're preparing for the race and kind of what is front of mind for you as the person who's going to be hopefully shepherding Vincent to another, life-changing day potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give huge props to Jess Brazo because I've learned so much from just shadowing her over the years. I think she is the ultimate crew captain. Yes. So if I can even be a fraction of who she is on race day, then I'm doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I think Western is exciting and also kind of scary because I won't be at every aid station, which is first for me. We'll have 2 cars. We'll have 2 groups. We're really confident in our groups of friends. They know the sport. They know Vincent. But I think really it's just a lot of trying to get as much information out of him in as short a period of time as possible to keep him moving. I love crewing. I think it's such a special, intimate moment and to share it with friends is going to be really great. So.
And you do have experience being at this race, right?
Yes.
More than me.
More than okay.
Yeah, I've been here. This will be my fourth Western, second time crewing.
Yeah.
We helped crew Jim in 2021.
Yeah.
So I've definitely seen hands-on, been a fly on the wall for 3 Westerns. So I'm feeling at least pretty confident in knowing the course, knowing the moments that they're key to get your runner in and out.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything can happen.
Yeah. All right. You've now mentioned Jim and Jess, and I feel like I would be irresponsible not to ask. I mean, I'm sure people would be curious about the friendship you guys share as 2 couples and friends. And, you know, Jim, unfortunately, he was the champion last year. He's not going to be here this year. To what degree beyond Jess giving you crewing advice, are they going to be part of the support team on Saturday? And maybe share a little bit about the friendship you guys share. You can get started.
Yeah. I mean, we talked with Jess and Jim, and of course they said, we'll be wherever you need us to be. I mean, they're some of our best friends. But at the same time, it's the first Western Jim has been at since 2015, I think, where he wasn't actively participating. So he's going to have a day for him. He's going to be out there cheering for everybody, seeing parts of the course in a way that he hasn't in a really long time. And maybe he'll fill up a flask here or there.
Yeah.
But I think more than that, we're so fortunate to have Jess and Jim to share little tips and tricks and reminders of, you know, kind of catching our errors before we make them. Gear lists, all those little things that just release a bit of brain space. So
Vincent, I'm now remembering in your UTMB post-race interview, you shared about how when you passed Jim at UTMB to move into the lead, he was the one who communicated to you, no, you're at the front of the race now. So I just wanted to flag that for the audience as another, you know, fun moment from your guys' relationship. But if there's anything you want to say beyond what Kamilah shared.
Yeah, no, I think it's I think I remember, so the only time I've come here to Western was 2021. And I'm still, to this day, in awe of seeing the execution of the crewing for Jim and like what Jess put together for like all the logistics, the strategy. I was like, and I mean, I had been to ultras before, and I had notably seen Jim at UTMB a couple of times already. But like this was just a whole other level of just dialing every single detail of the course, like the knowing pace, knowing the nutrition details, anticipating. And I think that was a kind of defining moment for me to realize, wow, okay, like there's something else of just going out there and improvising how the run's going to feel. Like the level of precision that went into it was really impressive. But then, it's just, for sure, I think I'm grateful that I was able to learn from them and from Jim and others throughout the years of just kind of observing, being a fly on the wall as well, and trying to replicate some of the things or just adopt my own methods. Yeah.
Okay, maybe in closing, I'd love to just have you both sort of comment on what it means to be able to be here at Western States and experience it, especially while you're going through this really interesting moment as a family before you welcome your first child. Kamilah, you can get us started.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mentioned I've spent so much time in this region growing up, had no idea that this race existed until I first came in 2017. And it really was the intro to the ultra world for me. I don't know that I ever imagined I'd be back here crewing someone that has some pretty big goals on Saturday, but it's a really beautiful sport. I love to see how the community is growing, becoming more inclusive, more diverse, the faces that are here, the people that are competing, the community that helps put it on. I think just really honored to be able to be here all the way from France and to see how things unfold. So
I did not grow up in Sacramento or in California, but I think I remember hearing about Western probably around my teenage when, I did not watch Unbreakable until Unbreakable 2 trailer came out, and I was like, okay, I guess I've never watched that. So it's not like to that point into trail running, but It's definitely from a European perspective, like the kind of the legend together with hard rock. But I think then living in California and learning a lot more about the community and the important aspect of the community in this sport in North America, it's been awesome. Like honestly, I think I'll remember forever. Like, I mean, my first 100K at Gorge Waterfall. Like,
yes.
And, like, I remember coming to the one of the training runs and like sharing a meal after, and just it's just
we talked about product and brands like all afternoon.
And to what Kamilah was saying, like understanding the momentum that's going on with our sport and understanding how Western State is 50 or so years old, so it's been going on, but at the same time there's so much potential for growth. And I mean, running globally, but trail running in particular has a growth ahead that is just phenomenal. The potential is huge. And so relying on communities like the volunteers here that are just so passionate to put this event together, do so much trail work, it's really special. Feeling really grateful to be part of this, and truly excited to enjoy the day on Saturday.
You guys are awesome. And I just am really excited for you to both be able to experience it in a new way this year. I know it's not your first time here, but Vincent, to have you in the race certainly makes my job more interesting and exciting. And that I appreciate. Kamilah, I hope you guys have a great day out on the race course. I hope it's low stress, no drama. I wish you guys nothing but the best. Thank you for coming into the studio.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.